Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Jodo Jake. Welcome back to the channel. It's another episode of Cards and Coffee. Drinking a cold brew today. So, in today's episode, I want to talk to you about alternate arts. And this one's kind of posed as a question for you guys. And it's just something that I've been thinking about over the last week. Now, I love alternate arts, right? If it wasn't for the Sword and Shield alt arts, I don't think I would have really jumped into ultra modern. I would have stuck to vintage. And I came into this hobby in 2020. So I had about a year and a half before I was introduced to those alternate arts of Sword and Shield. Prior to that, I really just focused on vintage and some mid-era. And alternate arts have evolved since Sword and Shield, right? Sword and Shield, we were introduced to alternate arts and battle styles, not brilliant stars. They both have the same acronym. But battle styles came out in, I believe, God, it had to have been like March or April of 2021, maybe May. Let me know in the comments. I can't remember. But the Tyranitar is what pulled me in, right? Like that Tyranitar alternate art was like, whoa, this card is telling a story. It's from a unique perspective from this artist where Tyranitar isn't the aggressor. He's still feared because you had, what is it, the Tepig or the second evolution, like kind of sitting by the tree, kind of terrified, waiting for Tyranitar to wake up. Tyranitar's sleeping. Haganosuke, I believe that's Haganosuke or Okacheke, but I think it's Haganosuke. They love to illustrate sleeping Pokemon. If you go to their Instagram, their entire Instagram account is just Pokedex of Pokemon sleeping. I would check it out. But yeah, it was really cool to see. And I was like, whoa, I want to collect these. I didn't care about Urshifu, but I still wanted it because they were such beautiful arts. The Urshifu VMAX Rapid Strike, beautiful card. The Empoleon, so good. And there's just like something really fascinating about seeing Pokemon in their natural environments or from a unique perspective that you would have not considered until this artist created that. And maybe I'm answering my own question as I talk through this, but I wasn't really paying attention to Sun and Moon era, and they were doing alternate arts during the Sun and Moon era, right? We had all the tag teams, and it goes even deeper than that. We can look back at X and Y. A lot of the promos are somewhat like illustration rares that we have now. None of them are textured, they're all flat, but they had some Pokemon that were more of like an alternate art, I guess. I think of the Mew, I think XY like 110 promo, I believe. I think of Zekrom and Palkia. I think of Celebi, Mew, not Mew, but Celebi. I think of Darkrai. All of those really cool XY promos. And those were cheap for forever. Since they pretty much ever came out up until these last couple years. And now we have Scarlet and Violet, we have the special illustration rares, but even in Sword and Shield, we had more than just alternate arts. We had Trainer Gallery, we had Galar Gallery, and all of these cards were telling stories, right? They're telling stories from the world of Pokemon through the trainers that they partnered with, or just the world or the habitats these Pokemon live in. And we're not seeing the standard Pokemon with a template background that's blurred out, or, you know, just this very generic looking background where it's just like a Pokemon kind of stamped onto a background art. And I think that's why people gravitate towards alternate arts, because now we have illustration rares in Scarlet and Violet. We have mega special illustration rares. We have shiny special illustration rares. And at the end of the day, they're all alternate arts. I don't even think Pokemon ever actually called Sword and Shield alternate arts, if I remember correctly. They just kind of been coined that. But we have special illustration rares and special art rares in Japanese. I don't know. Are we going to always feel this way when it comes to these alternate arts? Are we going to have art creep in the near future? I don't know. Like, artists continue to expand their skills and really become defining artists in the TCG, right? And we can think of artists like Shinji Kanda. Shinji Kanda had some illustrations in Sword and Shield. I can think of the Galarian Moltres. I think it's Magmar in Silver Tempest, maybe Lost Origin. They've done some not so popular Pokemon in the past, but they really got their ticket to fame, I guess you can say, with Giratina in Lost Origin, the alternate art. That illustration is powerful. It's not everyone's favorite. It's not necessarily my favorite, but even as someone that doesn't think it's the best, understands and appreciates the craft and skill that went into making that, as well as just knowing how much that card stands out, right? Like, it's chaotic. It represents Giratina so well. It really does. And I think that's kind of what's happening. I want to hear from you guys. Why has alternate arts really taking the hobby by storm? I'm an example of it, right? Like, I dove so deep into alternate arts, I completed every Sword and Shield alt art in PSA 10, and I'm slowly working on Scarlet and Violet. I was going to do Sun and Moon, but it ended up just selling them because I found that the market just valued them way more than I did. And I feel a little bit validated just because a lot of those cards have come down in price since I've sold them. And that was kind of like my thought process on that, was like, can I get these cards back for less down the road? And my answer was yes. So I just made that call. But artistry in this TCG is just evolving. And I think of Danciao or Danciao. We'll really want to figure out how to pronounce that artist's name. But I made a really bold, hot take on Real Collectors, Fake Investors. If you're not subscribed to Earn, go subscribe to Earn. We go live every 2 weeks. We're going to be going live soon. We're just two guys that love this hobby. We love all aspects of it, like to try new things and just rant about Pokemon. So if you're into that kind of thing, please go subscribe to Earn and look out for our next episode. But I made a bold take that Danciao or Danciao is the next Mitsuhiro Arita. And that's kind of crazy to say because I mean that in a respectful way of Arita. Arita and, Ken Sugimori, I think of Nishida, I think of Kamiya, I think of Yukimori. All of these artists have really laid the groundwork for this hobby, this Pokemon TCG, to be successful, if I'm being honest, from an artistry standpoint. The base set Charizard is nostalgic to us for a lot of reasons, but it is a beautiful illustration of Charizard. It represents Charizard in the way we imagined him as a kid, right? And I think about Danciao's Mega Charizard X from Inferno X or Phantasmal Flames. And that's a defining art, in my opinion. That is an illustration that will be remembered and be powerful from now till the end of the TCG, in my opinion. And I'm closely watching their next card and how they grow and how they expand, because we're already seeing it. We saw Danciao do Zekrom. They also did, I believe it was Iron Valiant in Prismatic Evolutions. It's not the greatest card in my opinion, but we've seen it in the past where artists just get their footing. They're starting to do cards or Pokemon that they don't necessarily want to do. But when we see these artists create Pokemon that they love, it shines through. And we see that with the Zekrom from Black Bolt. We see that with the newest upcoming Gengar that just came out in Mega Dream, which will be in our Ascended Heroes. And it's just fascinating to see, as this hobby expands, as this hobby grows and becomes more mainstream, we're seeing how the artists are the ones at the end of the day really bringing more collectors in. And I love that. I think that's extremely powerful. But I just keep thinking, like, what was it? Like, why wasn't this happening when X and Y had released their promos? Was it the sense of rarity? Because we think about XY promos, they're promos. You get them in a box that they came in, right? Whereas Sword and Shield alt arts have they're actually probably harder to pull than gold stars. And so maybe it comes down to this balance of rarity and artistry. And even we can look at illustration rares that are hard to pull, like the Magikarp that Shinji did. It's in a set where there's like over 30 illustration rares. So pulling that specific one is quite tough. What do you guys think? Has the alt arts of the hobby from Sun and Moon, XY, whether it be Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield, have they drawn you into Modern? And if so, why? Why do you guys think that it took up until Sword and Shield to really see alt arts flourish? That's my question for you guys. But that's it for me. It's just something I've been thinking about. Let me know in the comments. And until next time, y'all, happy collecting. Peace.